Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Jenny. I'm really excited to be here today to talk a little bit about my 2019 reading goals. It's a little bit insane to realize that this is it. There's only 2 days left of 2018 and 2019 is here, and I'm really glad that I get this chance to just sit down for a few days and contemplate goals and progress. And so I wanted to go through what my plan is for this year, because I have a bit of a different plan. I'm kind of planning more than I ever have for my reading. That's definitely influenced by BookTube. It's also really influenced by the fact that last year for 2018, when I wrote down my goals, it really helped me to focus on them. And so I feel like I'm going to try this year and see if planning out a bit more will actually make it even more successful for me. So I'll link my 2018 reading wrap up for my goals down below. But I think that what I want to do this year is just create a little bit more structure for myself, because as many of you know who have TBRs, to be read shelves, whether they're virtual or real in your own home, it's sometimes hard to remember what's on there. When I created my TBR last year, I wrote down some specific goals in some cases, and then in other cases things were a bit more up in the air. And so this year I wanted to be more precise, and I want to make sure that I'm hitting a lot of different genres and a lot of different types of reading that I may have enjoyed more in the past and then have kind of fallen by the wayside. So one of those things was audiobooks. For a while I had a good app for audiobooks, and then that app, for whatever reason, just didn't work as well on my iPad. And I discovered the Libby app, which is run by Overdrive, for audiobooks this year, or just recently. And so I squeezed an audiobook into the last few weeks of 2018, and I plan to read or listen to one audiobook a month at least. But I would assume it'll be about one audiobook a month for the 2019 year. And why is that? Because I want to increase what I can consume, and I want to at least have one audiobook on the go that I can go to in those times where listening to a book is possible. And there are other topical goals that I've set for myself this year. So one of those is reading at least one book per month that is First Nations based. So I think this year I'm going to focus specifically on Canadian First Nations. Canadian, maybe North American is more accurate, First Nations. But it's possible that I will expand that into other Indigenous cultures later on in the year if a book really strikes my fancy. So 12 of my books this year will be First Nations based, and I will be reading 12 audiobooks. Now, there's also going to be room for these to cross over. For instance, right now for January, I'm listening to a First Nations topical book that is an audiobook. So there'll be crossover there, but that's okay, because that's going to help me achieve the goal. My other goal for last year was to read at least 15 books that were Canadian literature, or Canadian writers, Canadian topics. And again, in some cases that can overlap with my First Nations reading, but I hope to at least read one Canadian writer per month if possible. I also have some plans for some big books this year. My plan last year failed rather dismally. I had 2 big books planned, and I got to September and realized that I hadn't read either of them, and I wasn't going to have enough time to read both of them. So this year, my plan is to break it down into 3 sections. So the earlier part, winter into early spring, and then spring into summer, and then summer into fall, and then I'm going to read 3 big books. One of which just changed today because another one of my goals, again influenced from BookTube, was hearing about Mel from Mel's Bookland Adventure and Victoria from Eve's Alexandria. Is that correct? Yes, Eve's Alexandria. That's a new channel that I just heard about today, a new to me channel. They are hosting a read-along called Reading Through the Ages. Reading Through the Ages, I think. I will put the links to that below, which is all about historical fiction. And I do really love historical fiction. It's my favorite way to learn about history. It's really exciting, a project. It's very open-ended, but they've created a whole bingo card where you can follow through and the prompts. And so I'm going to make another video about that and about the TBR that I've created for it, but really excited to participate in that this year. And the last specific plan is to read 12 books, 12 poetry collections, and that will also be one per month. So it's, you know, I think I'm going to set my Goodreads reading goal challenge at about 40 books this year. It was 35 last year, and I actually managed to get very close to 40, I think, this year. And I know some people feel pressured by the number that they put on their Goodreads challenge, but it doesn't pressure me at all. If I don't make it, I'm not going to beat myself up about it. It's just a number that I like to put down, again, to keep me focused and to keep me grounded in what I want to accomplish for myself. That being said, I do have some specific books that I thought I would list here. I guess I can look back on this at the end of 2019 and see if I did accomplish reading these books. These are books that I have had on my TBR for quite a long time, and that I just want to kind of set in stone that this is going to be the year that they get read for me. So the first one is the big book that I did not complete in 2018, and I'm going to go pick that one up. And that will be probably again in a January TBR video, but that is Lasher by Anne Rice. And it is 883 pages, so really long book, and it is the second in a series of 3. So I read the first one, The Witching Hour, a long time ago. I'd say it's probably at least 4 years, maybe 5 years ago. So I'm excited to get to that. The second big book that I'm going to read this year is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, and that's going to end up being my first buddy read on BookTube, so I'm very excited about that. I'm going to be reading that book with Rick from another book vlog, and I believe another subscriber to his channel is going to read with us, so I'm really excited to get that book. And it was just a coincidence that he had that book on his list of big books to read this year, and I had written that down a few days prior as a big book that I wanted to get to this year. And the third big book is going to be Russka, which is the novel of Russia by Edward Rutherfurd, and I'm going to talk more about that book in the Reading Through the Ages TBR. But if you're not familiar with Edward Rutherfurd, he writes really huge, spanning, epic novels that relay the history of a place. So he basically, in each book, he starts with the geological development of that actual area, and then he picks certain eras to dip into and gives you a character from each one. Sometimes it's a family, like generational, that connects, and then in other books it's not, and it jumps from era to era, and you end up seeing different types of people from different backgrounds, different classes, different ways of looking at the world, and it's just a way to learn about the history of a place without reading through a dry kind of history book. So I do enjoy them. I've read a few of his so far, and I'm excited to read that one. The next book that I have specifically to finish is The Amber Spyglass by Philip Pullman. I have read the other 2 books. It is taking me a ridiculously long time to read this series. I don't know why. I find them very enjoyable, but I want to finish that series, and I know that he's started another trilogy, which is a prequel, so I'm interested in following that up, but I want to get The Amber Spyglass done this year. The next one is Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeliene Thien. I have wanted to read this book since I first heard about it years ago. It's a very popular Canadian novel in the last 2 years, so I definitely want to get to that one. And the last specific book that I wrote down was September by Rosamunde Pilcher. I first read Rosamunde Pilcher probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I loved the book. It was just, I find her writing very comforting and very domestic, which I know sounds like kind of a boring word, but sometimes you just need something that's about regular people doing pretty regular things. It gives you sort of a comforting sensation, and that's definitely what I felt when I read Winter Solstice a few years ago. So I've had all of her books that are at the library on my list for years now since I read Winter Solstice. Specific books that I'm going to get to, and the rest of the books that are coming up will be listed on TBRs throughout the year. As for goals for the channel, I really don't know what they're going to be. I'm going to make videos when, you know, inspiration strikes, and these are my book goals, this is my book world, and I'm very excited to continue to meet more people on BookTube and interact with more people, and just keep enjoying this world of books that I feel so privileged to be able to participate in. So thank you very much for watching, and I will be back again soon, probably with my January TBR. And I'll also be posting another video which focuses on my artistic goals for 2019. So if you have any interest in learning about my life as an artist and the goals that I set for myself in that world, then have a look at one of those videos. Have a great rest of your day.